Hey, welcome to Board with Life News for March 12th. Today we're going to talk about Attack Wing, Dungeons & Dragons. We're going to talk about the 10th anniversary special edition of the game, Power Grid. We're going to talk about a new game called Panamax, as well as the Kickstarter for a game called Pirate Den. Let's get to it. Hey, I'm Chris, and this is Board with Life News. Thanks for tuning in. First things first, this is the very end of our Kickstarter. We have just a few days left. It ends this Saturday, the 15th. So if you haven't given yet, now's your last chance to do that. For celebration of our end of our Kickstarter, we're actually this Saturday, the 15th, going to try to do a 12-hour-long gaming marathon from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Central Time, and that's when our Kickstarter ends. So everybody can tune in and we can all kind of see the results together. That's assuming we can figure out a YouTube live feed, which I think we can, but that's the plan. So definitely make sure you tune in for that if you're going to be around. Also on the Kickstarter, we added a new tier very recently. We're going to be going to Gen Con. Most of us are going to be going to Gen Con, as many as we can afford, basically. And to help with that, we have a new tier. It's $200, but we take you out to dinner at Gen Con. It's going to be a big group of us. So you can come hang out with the Board with Life gang and other Board with Life fans at Gen Con, and we'll have a grand old time. I promise it will be worth it. Also, we only have one of the bits tiers left, so if you've been looking at that $750 tier that was limited to 4, we've sold 3 of them. So if you're a publisher that has a new game coming out, or a designer that has a game that you want to push, or just a fan and really want to see us goof on a game, that is the very last chance you're going to have to get that tier. So make sure you do that if you've been thinking about that. We're less than $1,000 away on our Kickstarter from our push goal of a holiday special. We had a blast with our last holiday special, the Halloween special, and we really want to make another one for you guys. So it's something like $800, I think, right now until we get that, so that would be awesome. And that would bring our episode total up to 7 for Season 2, so it would be even longer than Season 1. We were recently on the Happy Mittens podcast, and that was a lot of fun. One of the highlights of it is they had a game where we had to guess whether or not it was a magic card, and Donald dominated because he is good at that, I guess? Is that a thing you can be good at? Well, he is. So that's it for the Kickstarter. Go check it out if you could share it with your friends if you've already given. If you've already given, you might want to think about adding a DVD or Blu-ray or t-shirt to your order. The DVDs and Blu-rays are going to have a bunch of exclusive content that wasn't on the channel, like commentaries for every single episode. We've started recording those, and they're really fun, they're really funny, and they give you a behind-the-scenes look. So if you have the extra dollars, we would very much appreciate it, but if not, sharing this with your friends is incredibly huge as well, so thank you for doing that. Alright, up first for board game news is Attack Wing, Dungeons & Dragons. This is from WizKids, and apparently the whole Attack Wing thing is just trying to complete the full Venn diagram of geekdom, because they had Star Wars Attack Wing, and now Star Trek Attack Wing, and now Dungeons & Dragons Attack Wing, and I'm somewhere more towards the Star Wars side of that Venn diagram, but certainly nestled between the three. This is going to be like those other Attack Wing games. You're going to be dragons that are flying in aerial combat, fighting each other. One interesting thing about this one, though, is they said that there's going to be giants and magic users on the ground that are able to affect the dragons and stuff like that. I think that's actually a really cool idea to add into it so that you could have ground units that are interacting with the dragons and such. And it'll be interesting to see if Star Wars or Star Trek pick that up. It seems like Star Wars, that would certainly have a place in that universe. But I guess if you wanted to get in on Star Wars or Star Trek Attack Wing, but don't like science fiction and are more a fantasy type person, then this is the time to do that. But it's seeming like you just gotta pick one because they get so expensive because it's such a money pit with all the expansions and all that stuff. So I don't see a lot of people switching, but I guess if you're a big Dungeons & Dragons or fantasy fan, this will be fun for you. Up next is Fukenschlag Deluxe by Friedman Fries, the classic game, which is Power Grid, the German name for Power Grid. They are going to have a 10th anniversary edition, much like the Ticket to Ride 10th anniversary edition that was just announced, which is crazy that these games are 10 years old, because I still remember them coming out. But this is going to be a Europe and North America board. It's going to have giant-sized maps. It's going to have new power plants, new resource types, new wooden pieces and player tokens, new plastic coins, so it basically seems like a big upgrade for everything. But since the player boards, or the player maps, are bigger, I don't think they're going to be compatible with other games in the Power Grid line. So you gotta weigh that, how much you want the new stuff if it doesn't match up with your old stuff and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of sucks. But yeah, I mean, Power Grid is a fantastic game. It still holds up after all these years. So if you haven't played it, this is a great re-entry point for you. Stronghold Games announced a game called Panamax, which is in celebration of the 100th anniversary of the Panama Canal. I do not remember when the Panama Canal came out, unlike Power Grid. But it's an economic game with some pick up and deliver mechanics where basically you're trying to load goods on and off of boats and move them through the locks in the most efficient way. It looks cool. It's got a nice looking board. It looks like a nice little Euro game. There aren't a whole lot more details on what's going on with this game, but you know, I'm always going to talk about dryly themed Euros, so there's your dryly themed Euro game of the day. Alright, on to Kickstarter Corner. This week's Kickstarter game is called Pirate Den. Pirate Den is a bluffing game where you take on the role of different pirates and you have cards that have simultaneous play, so you play them face down. And the cards will dictate the play order and also kind of who you take treasure from, whether you're taking it from the middle or taking it from someone else. So it's a quick, light game of bluffing and deceit and stuff like that, so that seems fun. The artwork is absolutely gorgeous on this. It's really cartoony, but in a really nice way. All the shading is very lovely. The base game costs $25, so if you're interested in that, head over to that Kickstarter and pick it up. Alright, that's the news for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe and like us and all that stuff. I'm sure you've done that already, because I tell you every week and you're the best fans ever. And make sure you check out our Kickstarter if you haven't. There are only a couple days left, and then I promise we're going to stop hounding you about all that stuff, and then we're just going to do awesome content. Also, yesterday we released a bit, Ashley Birch. It was actually the first bit that Ashley Birch has written and directed for us. And it's Donald and I playing Boss Monster, and it's really fun, and it's something a little bit different than we normally do, so definitely go check that out. Alright, and for this week's question, comes via YouTube from Kevin C, something, and the gist of it, in a longer form, was basically that they've gotten their friends into lighter games, and they really like them, but they've had trouble getting them kind of past medium into some heavier games, and if I had any tips on how one might do that. I think a lot of it depends on the game. A good trick you can use if they're into certain heavier games that have really good board games made out of them, like Game of Thrones or Battlestar Galactica. That's a nice way, because you can kind of pull them in with the theme and then suddenly trick them into playing a heavier game, and then they'll probably like it, because both of those are fantastic games. So that's one way. I think games like Cosmic Encounter that are actually simple and simple to grasp, but once you kind of get into the meat of it, they get really heavy and you can keep on adding on more and more and more. That makes it more complicated is good. So those games where you can kind of play with a simple set of rules and then add in a more complex set of rules, I think those are really good. But honestly, there are a lot of people that only like light games and medium games and really aren't looking for a really crunchy, meaty game, and that's okay. And maybe nobody in your gaming group likes that, so maybe you play light games with them and you can find a new gaming group. There's lots of resources online to find new gaming groups. If you head down to your favorite local game store, I'm sure you can hook up with somebody there. So if you're really itching to play some heavier stuff, you might just need to find a new group. And I have 2 solid game groups and sometimes frequent a third, and we play different sorts of games of each one, and that's great, and you meet new people and make new friends and all that kind of stuff. So if you can't get this group into heavier games, don't force it on them, because they're not going to like it. Play the fun, light games that you like with them, and then find a new group, and make some new friends in the board game world. It's a very friendly world that I love being a part of. Alright, that's the news for this week. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.